everybody, for the most part, had a very, very, very good January. And so what I was hoping to do is just start off this call by introducing you guys to, oops, how did that work? How did I do that? I don't know how to do this stuff. I'm not very technically savvy. So let's start at the bottom. So everybody that's on the call, we're looking at the percent, and the numbers over here on the left-hand side or the right-hand side represent the percent of the goal that you guys set for yourselves in December. So when you look at Les Tuttle, he reached 15% of his goal. Now everybody understands that January is probably the worst month because most of us take November and October, or November and December kind of slow down. But this doesn't correlate to some of the numbers that you guys are going to be posting for February. And a lot of you guys are seeing tremendous success in February, but I wanted to at least bring this part of it up to you guys. So Tony, not bad, 77% of your goal. Aaron Hossinger, 74%. Richard, Dave Brown, Kristen Jones, Les Tuttle, Scott Thompson, and Brian Heckman. In all fairness to Brian joined the company probably in November of last year, and when he started to ramp his business up, it's been completely and totally night and day different from what we're going to see in his February postings, which I was really excited about. Let's go with, where's the other one? So for the top 4 of the group, Kristen Jameson. Kristen Jameson kicked it out, man. 21, 37, 871, 146% of her goal.
Nice.
Ryan Miller, another solid month, 144% of his goal. Margot, 136% of your goal. Good job, sweetie. You rock. Way to apply yourself. Way to be there. And then last but not least, John Scandamus, 1.6. So I ranked them by percent of your goal because I feel like that's the most important thing. Again, I don't care about the numbers. I care about how committed you are to reaching the goals that you set for yourself in November and December of last year. So congratulations to the top 4. And Tony, you're right in the, you're at number 5, and I could totally see what you're going to do this month because of the numbers that I see posting. You're going to have a great February too, isn't that right?
Well, yeah, better than January.
Good. Well, that's all that matters. So while you guys are on the call, we've got a good bunch of people. Is there anything anybody would like to bring up to the group today? Oh, yeah, Jameson, sorry. Hold on one second.
It's okay now. We're good.
Yeah. What's that? So is anybody experiencing any bottlenecks for this since January?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a bottleneck, but it's just like I'm on the swing shift. So it went from being so busy you can't see the light of day to hearing crickets. But okay. I've just been focusing on calls, and mornings are for making money, afternoons are for attending to other things.
Okay. Why do you think that is, Margot?
Because at this point I'm a one-person show, and when I get really busy, I'm doing everything myself. I'm not prospecting. I'm not out building everything that I did to get that business in. So it's your typical feast and famine, highs and lows, which I'm wanting to change this year.
So when you look at Kristen Jameson, you look at Ryan Miller, and even John Scandamus and Tony Saramatis. Tony, I know you've been struggling with getting some consistency going in your business, and it feels like for the last 60 to 90 days you really found that rhythm. Is there anything you could share with her?
Well, just from my own personal experience, and over the last 9 months or so, I've kind of gone through just some self-discovery. I realized that even though on the surface I knew that I had to get out of my own way and get out of the loan level activities, I was still you know, I don't know if it's OCD or just I was compulsively getting involved. I have and continue to struggle with control issues.
You're a mirror image of me, buddy.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, and I'm telling you, this goes back to a conversation that I had with Doug, a 15-minute conversation. And he asked me, if he was just really blunt. He said, so do you think you're acting more like a loan officer or a business owner? And I said, I'm acting more like a loan officer. It was the truth. It stung, and I didn't like hearing it, but it's exactly what I needed to hear. And so it's actually gotten to a point where when I see something, and I'm just going to make kind of a blanket statement. When I see something going wrong with a borrower or in a loan, I have to keep myself from getting involved and just trust that Bert's going to take care of it. And if Bert doesn't take care of it, then I'm experiencing an issue as a business owner, not as a loan officer. So the other thing that Doug said is you have to care less about what happens to each individual loan, which just goes against my nature, because I'm pretty high in the S category in the DISC profile, so I'm just kind of a caretaker by nature.
Yep.
And I gotta get, you just gotta get rid of that. You have to nurture your inner D. And the more you act as a D, the more your D will come out, which is exactly what has to happen in order to build a business.
Right. So we have one of our top LOs in the company has his own branch, and he has literally struggled with employees. I think 7 or 8 employees have come and gone within the last year in his business. And the last one, which was somebody he invested a lot of time and energy into, decided that it wasn't going to be a good fit. And the feedback that we've been getting about that situation, terms like micromanagement, controlling type personality. When you consider how our employees feel, if we're always doing the job that we've hired them to do, where's the satisfaction for them? Where do they feel like they matter? And for those of you that have employees, I think it's a key piece, because we're all highly, highly skilled loan officers, extremely gifted business owners, but we have very, very strong fears that nobody else can do it as good as us. And if you want to get past doing 3 to 4 loans a month, and you want to start talking 7 to 10, we can start talking about guys like Craig Bland and Kellen Vaughn and Richard Smith and Ken Travis. And I can honestly tell you the difference between a branch like that and some of the people that are on this call. And it has to do with, I don't think Kellen Vaughn or Richard Smith think of themselves as loan officers. I don't think any one of our big branches knows the names of every file that's closing in their pipeline. And so to Tony's point,
exactly.
that's really the message about when you look at your volume, when you look at the volume of business that we're doing, and you're wondering why I'm only hitting 75% of my target or 60% of my target, a lot of it has to do with our investment into our team, no question. But then we have to ask ourselves, how long is that investment going to take place before it starts paying dividends?
So, Doug, expand on what you just said. Because I think you're implying something there, but I just want to be real clear. In other words, if your team isn't doing what you hired them to do, then you need to start.
Well, here's something that goes back to the call that I do on Wednesdays, right? With my lead tracker coaching. you have to care more about the leads than you do about the closings. That's to help you build the momentum to get the volume of business up to where you want it to be able to hire somebody. Once you get to that point, then you have to care more about your employees and the level of service that they give to your clients than you do about actually collecting, than collecting closings again. When we wake up in the morning and we've committed to hiring somebody, Tony, does your mindset look different today than it did before you had Bert? Do you think about things differently in the morning than you used to?
Yes. Yeah, I think I think less about what I have to do and more about how I can do less.
Correct, because you have a team of people to support you. I know guys like Aaron Hossinger and John Scandamus, Kristen Jameson, Kristen Jones. These are people, and Les Tuttle, they all have a team. They have multiple employees that they rely on to deliver a high level of service. I think we all know that Kristen Jameson is exceptionally great at originating loans, but many of us don't realize that one of her greatest strengths is training and coaching people. She's exceptionally gifted and talented in her ability to get the most out of her team. And she's on the call, and I would venture to guess that she could share a little bit. And I know the same thing about Les Tuttle, and the same thing about Kristen Jones. You guys all have built a team around you. I would love to hear your thoughts and perspective on how you go from being a really, really, really good loan officer to learning to shift that mindset of how you can become a really, really, really good leader. And for each of you that are on this call, you guys are in the Alpha Plan because you all possess the skills that are necessary to build a team. And I'm wondering from your perspectives, what works? Kristen Jones, you're on the call.
I am, sir.
Can you share a little bit about when you decided? I mean, you had an employee for a while, and then you changed gears, and now you went from one to having two people on your team. What is your mindset look like? Why were you able to shift gears like that from being just a self-contained loan officer, closing your set amount of loans, to expanding your business and being ready to do that?
Well, I think I told you guys a little bit last call that I just had a change in my team. So it seems like on the short term, for the last 60 days or so, I've taken a little bit of a step backward because I had let one go and had a learning curve myself, and then hired a processor who's also gone through a learning curve. The gal that I had last year, she was good, and she was doing a lot of the loan partner type of tasks. But what I was finding is if we were doing 3 or 4 loans a month, she could handle it. If we would start to do 8, 9, 10, 11, then I had to jump back in and get involved. So we had lots of conversations about that, and I kept trying to engage her and, taking the next step and thinking ahead and being able to handle more on her own instead of getting me involved in that, but it just didn't happen month after month. So I was kind of in a quandary because things were going well, they were good, they just weren't great. So it's like, okay, well, this is comfortable. Do I stay in mediocrity and do 11 loans and then 3 and then 10 and then 2 because I'm getting pulled back in and not prospecting, kind of like Margot just said, or am I going to have to cut the ties with a a decent employee and really find someone who's a rock star? So I did that. I let her go in January and hired a processor who I've worked with in the past, and she's awesome. She does a great job. Her learning curve was a little bit more than I anticipated it, just because she knows the industry so well. But with our technology and Mortgage Builder and everything else, it took her a little bit longer to get underway. I also didn't know a lot of the loan partner stuff because my past loan partner was doing that, sending out disclosures and putting everything into surveillance, that kind of thing. So I'm glad that I learned it. It made me really jump in to learn, and it was a tough month. Everything was kind of last minute, and my processor was stressed, and it was tough, but I think it needed to happen for me to get to the next level, and I was kind of going through the last month going, oh my God, maybe mediocrity wasn't so bad. This sucks. But now that I'm on the other side of it, I think Sean's a lot more she's a lot more comfortable now, my new processor, and I think she's going to be able to start handling more. She's already taking more off my plate than what I did. So I'm glad I learned how to do this stuff, because one of the things that also held me hostage with Julie, my prior loan partner, was I didn't know how to do anything. So I was kind of holding on to her going, oh God, you know, I don't want to have to learn how to run deal findings and pull credit. I mean, she really ran with all of that stuff. So the fact that I was kind of forced to learn it was good, because if I would have hired another loan partner from the beginning, I think I wouldn't have learned it, because I don't like that stuff. But at least now I know if there's an emergency, I can jump in and handle it. And it did confirm that that's not what I like to do at all. I like the bigger picture and motivating the staff that I have. So I struggled a lot this past month, and Doug was really great, because I think my expectations were a little too high and I was a little too antsy that things would be smooth faster. So I had to take a step back and have not prospected much this month at all. So I'll have a decent closing month, but right now March doesn't look that great because I've had to jump in and do a lot of the loan stuff. But I really tried to be there for Sean and support her, because I think the first 30 to 60 days can be really stressful for a new employee. And that's kind of the time that you need to be there to support them so they don't jump off the ledge. And I know she was close a couple times. So I was just there and told her how awesome she was doing, and sometimes even in the back of my mind going, holy heck, maybe, you know, this isn't going to work, and she's not as good as I thought she was. But we communicated every day, and, you know, I was there to help her, and again, things are much better now, and she's much more proactive and creating her checklists, and it's going to be good. So I think just having a little bit of patience, you know, when you bring someone on, and just really supporting them, you know, knowing that our expectations as loan officers sometimes might be a little too aggressive, and we just need to, you know, take a breath and support as much as possible, because you've got to build their confidence and, you know, empower them to really do the business, like Doug said. So I'm not involved in every transaction, and she can, you know, think ahead and think of how to handle the, you know, the problems and so forth. So I definitely took a step back, but I think it's going to be, you know, definitely a good step in the right direction for what my vision is of how my team is going to look, where I'm not going to be in the day-to-day hardly at all. And I'm slowly working myself out of that as well. So I'm already thinking about the next person I'm going to hire, you know, probably to fill in more of that loan partner role, and, you know, to help with some marketing and dialing and those kinds of things. I'm trying to hire ahead of that curve. So it's just kind of the timing of when, you know, when is that the right time? When is it too early, and when is it too late? So I'd love to get some feedback from any of you guys that might have some ideas on, you know, when they hired that next person and when that person came into play based upon how many loans they were closing and so forth. I think I'm going to close, I don't know, 8 or 9 in February. And right now I've got 2 on the books for March. So it's kind of like, well, dang, you know, do I hire someone now and have a huge salary when I've got 2 loans slated to close in March? That doesn't seem right. But I need to keep the momentum going that I had in January and February too. So I'm struggling with that a little bit, but I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Hey, Kristen, this is Tony. Can I, so did you hire Sean specifically to be a processor and nothing else?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, she is going to learn how to do the processing. And again, that was more than she could handle over this past month. Now that she has got things under her wing a little bit better, I think she can step in and start doing more loan partner stuff. I would eventually like to cross-train her and have her learn how to send out disclosures and do those things too. I just haven't been able to do that up to this point because she was in over her head. I mean, we were last minute with submitting stuff and ordering things, but yeah, Tony, I think that she will be able to handle a little bit more. You know, when we're only doing 5 or 6 loans a month, absolutely, she can wear more hats than just processing. But she hasn't been able to do that up to this point.
So so who's doing the who's sending out your disclosures, like the true admin work in the loans?
I am doing that right now. So that's what my other loan partner was doing, and I had never sent one out at all since I've been with SMP. So when I let her go in January, it was kind of like, oh man, I got to learn how to do this and learn how to do it quick. So I did it for all the loans closing this month, and I'm the one doing it right now. But again, I think this is where I can start working with Sean and have her maybe even step in to help with some of those roles as well. But that's why I want to think of my backup person, because I don't want to keep doing that stuff. So that's where I figure out, where can Sean and I handle it all, and then where do I need to bring in someone else?
Is that the stuff that you dislike doing the most, that is most time consuming?
Yes, definitely. I was in, like, as your typical loan officer. That's all I did for the month of, middle of January to middle of February, and I was like, oh, this so confirms I hate this stuff. I can do it, I just don't like it. So.
Well,
Can I share? Yeah. Can I share, before you jump in, Tony? Can I just share something real quick that I wanted that I feel like might kind of open people's eyes up a little bit? Tony, I'm gonna ask you this question if you don't mind. When you look at that number of 77% of your goal, what does that 77% represent to you?
That I was at least 23% too involved in my loans.
Exactly. I always, when I ran my company and my monthly goals weren't working, and I said if I saw the number of 77%, I looked at it as I was 77% an effective manager. Because if I was a 100% effective manager, my goals of my volume would have been met, because that means that I would have been able to do what I told my team that they were hired to allow me to do. And so to your point, Tony, 100% correct. The number is not representing your percent of your volume and loan volume. It represents your proficiency as being a manager for those people who have employees, because I believe that every employee represents 5 loans. You being your first employee should have 5 loans a month before you hire the next person, and the next person should yield you another 5. So 2 people on a team should yield 10 transactions a month. 10. And when you don't have the ability to let go, when you don't have the ability to trust, when you don't have the ability to focus solely on your origination talents, and which is why you have a person supporting you in the first place, those percentages represent the challenges. And so, when you look at the first slide and you look at the people that are on that first list, Kristen Jameson, Ryan Miller. Ryan doesn't really have an employee, and neither does Margot, but John Scandamson and Kristen Jameson are hitting their volume at a very high rate, and they all have employees, which means to tell me that they're both. And if I was anybody else on this list besides those 2 people, I'd be calling those 2 people or asking them questions on, how do you find ways to let go? How do you make sure that you're able to do the origination volume that you want while trusting that the team that's supporting you is doing their job and doing it to the level that you expect? That's the question that I'd be asking to everybody.
I have a question for Kristen Jameson. Still on the call, Kristen?
I am. I'm just stuffing my face, but I swallowed.
So are you working more hours or fewer hours now than you want to be?
Well, I'm still working more than I want to be, but I'm working fewer hours now than I ever have in the last 2 years. But I'm still working more than the average person works. So, I mean, it's definitely what I'm doing is working, and the girls have been phenomenal. And, I mean, there's no way I would have gotten the volume numbers that I have gotten over the last 90 days. But anytime a new person comes on, I watch my volume drop. Like, I dropped about $1 million in the month of January from where I was at the 90 days prior. But that's okay, because I'm still closed. I still closed over $2 million.
What do you
but
do
that's
in that
one of the
time
biggest
frame?
things. Spent as much time with them as I could.
But when you spend time with them, what are you teaching them? Like, what does the handoff look like for you? How do you know when they're ready to do it on their own? How do you let go? Because you're an extremely involved loan officer and business owner. I mean, to the point where you're kind of controlling. But I think in your case, when you're controlling, it's a healthy thing, because you teach LOs or you teach your support staff to kind of carry that same torch, and you empower them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I've also been blessed with the girls that tell me that they want to do it themselves because that's the only way they're going to learn. And I know in this industry, I've been in it long enough and been on the operations side, there's absolutely nothing that can't be fixed. So, I mean, there's nothing. It might cost us $50 or $100 in a cost to cure or something of that nature, but there's nothing that can't be fixed. So, and when you have that mindset, it makes life a lot easier.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, so Kristen, you're not afraid to let them fail or make a mistake, I should say, because you know
They'll
you
never
can
make it
work on
again.
and fix it. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And they've got to do that, and you've got to empower them to do that, and let them know that you will support them if they do make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And
My
you'll
mom
figure it out
actually,
together.
yeah, my mom just got fired. She was on a job for 3 weeks, so it had her 2 weeks of training and then 1 week, and she got let go on Friday. And her biggest thing was, you know, the mistakes were made, or they made mistakes or whatever, and instead of them letting them fix them or letting her fix it or getting her involved, they just let her go. And I think that's one of the worst things that anybody in business can do. It's, I mean, let them fix it. Figure out a way, and if you can't figure it out, let's do it together. But there's nothing that can't be fixed. Unless you tell somebody to fuck off, but that's not cool either.
Well said. Well said. Hey, I know Les Tuttle's on the call. Hey, Les, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. How about
Good.
you?
I'm doing wonderful. I know that you've gone through a changing of the guard a few times over the last, over the last 12 months. Can you tell me what's helped you kind of get over that hump of, you know what, I've got a team of people and I need to trust that they're going to do what I've hired them to do, and you've had to step in and you've had to be engaged with your team. Do you agree with what Kristen's saying? I mean, do you see the same thing that she's going through? Would you say that it works for you the same way?
Oh yeah, I think what Kristen just said was very right. I mean, for me, like I said, we were, as I mentioned to you, I kind of did a rework at the end of November and through December, and trying to, I mean, I redid everything the way we were going, and the different processes we had, and got that really lined up and set up. So I'm excited about what's going on. I mean, we really did not do well in January, but from that, what I've told the people working for me is hey, you just do it, and whatever you do, I'm going to support, even if it's wrong, because I've asked you to do it, and then we'll fix it after that on whatever needs to be done. So.
Hey, John, I know that John Scandamus is on the call as well. I'd like to hear from him. He's got two support staff on his team. He doesn't have two LOs. He's got a girl by the name of Robin and a young gentleman by the name of Alvaro. And they both, I feel like, have sworn alliance to this guy. I mean, the glowing review that Robin and Stacy gave John at our last roundtable was really heartwarming. It really made me realize how valuable you as a leader are to people if you allow them to, to find their groove, so to speak. Hey, John, can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Hello, everyone. I have a little bit of a cold, so forgive me for sounding like a Cookie Monster, whoever. So, speak a little bit about what? I'm sorry.
Just, you know what? You've got two people on your team, and you're beyond hitting your target for your monthly goals. I'm just curious to know how you're able to use your team so effectively that provides you all the time that you need to go out and originate, at least for the month of just, for what you did in December and January.
Right. Very fortunate, having hired someone the wrong way a few years ago when I was ready to get out of the business, and bringing Alvaro on board, and once I got Robin in line, I've tried my best to stay away from a file as much away of it as I can. So I try to focus myself on when I'm having a conversation with someone in the very beginning to set the table or the stage for if this is going to be a file that we can get in and get closed. I'm not a big fan of throwing something on the wall and hoping that it sticks. And just being able to trust Robin entirely once we turn over the file to her. It's a very an experience I've never felt before in terms of being a control freak and letting it go. But the files that have happened, like we had a file that closed today, and I didn't even look at the final CD. I didn't even call the client. I mean, it was really, I felt like a slacker because my hands aren't in the cookie jar. And I see that that's a really exciting place to be, and that's where I want to be, so I can go and bring in more deals. So I don't know. The answer to the question is I have it set up, but I'm awkwardly not knowing how to manage this choice and control, freedom to go and move forward.
Do you think that the highest and best use of your time is to manage your pipeline?
No, I think the highest and best use of my time is to get deals in the door.
Okay. So to back to Tony's point, you know, one of the greatest struggles that we face is our ability to let the loans go. Stop caring as much as we do about our loans and care more about the team that supports us. Because if you take care of your team, they're going to take care of your loans. And by that I mean, obviously you have to hire the right people. You've got to make sure you're training them properly. But a large part of the reason why some of our LOs, some of our teams and our employees leave us is because we do a really poor job of letting them feel like they're valuable to us. And who doesn't want to feel like they're important? Who doesn't want to feel like they're needed? But when we're micromanaging our loans and we're micromanaging our employees, it gets kind of suffocating. Does anybody disagree with that?
No, I agree.
Not at all.
Yeah.
In fact, Doug, I'm listening to this whole conversation. Before I got into lending, I was a builder. I was a general commercial contractor. And all this conversation is so familiar because when I ran that business, I wasn't pouring the concrete. I wasn't doing the carpentry. I was hiring people to do all that. I spent 100% of my time in the plan rooms and digging up business and quoting business. The rest was you hired people and let it go. And it's like I feel like the light switch has just been turned on. I'm still in the contracting business. I have to just switch my whole mindset.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. We're all general contractors for our businesses.
Yeah. Because I didn't do payroll. I didn't do any of that stuff. I had office managers that did that and contractors that did the work and assistants that typed letters and, you know.
Does anybody get current client referrals from their pipeline? Do you guys? I know Ryan Miller does, and I know Margot does, and I know Scott Thompson does because we do a little bit of coaching around that. But as a general rule, do you guys expect to get current client referrals through your monthly closings? Does anybody gear themselves mentally for that?
I do.
Yes, definitely.
Doug, I do a horrible job at that. Horrible. Tony.
Well, I can tell you, Tony, that you could talk to Margot and you could talk to Ryan Miller, and they would probably help you and give you some pointers on ways to do that. But the message behind the question is really this. When you understand how to orchestrate referable moments, there really only becomes 5 points in which you really need to communicate to your borrowers if you still want to be engaged. And those 5 points really allow you to leverage that relationship to yield more business, which is the only piece of the transaction that you as alpha should be concerned with. The rest of it should be handled by your team. The minutia should be handled by your team. And when you pick up the phone and you communicate your 5 points of contact, you should have the confidence knowing that the team behind you has got your back. And it goes to that saying of you're as strong as your weakest link. And most of the time, if we hired the right people correctly, we are our own weakest link. And so when I see Kristen Jameson talk about how she did it, when I see how John Scandamus does it, and I look at everybody else's businesses, they try to ramp up and you have employees, I really feel like the number one thing that we need to focus on is investing in our teams and their ability to succeed for us. They're not going to do it just like us. I don't want them to do it just like me, because if they do it just like me, then I have to teach them to do it just like me, and I don't want that much pressure put on me. I want them to do the job that gets us to the target. They may go about it a different way, and you'd be surprised. They may figure out a way that's even better, as long as the ultimate goal, which is creating relationships with people that want to advocate my business. That was the message that I told every one of my employees. You're here because I believe that you have the aptitude and the passion for this. But my concern is I know you know how to read a manual. I know you can follow directions and procedures. But when it comes to making decisions, your decisions have to be founded on what used to be my mission statement, which was to create advocates of my business through the conversations and through orchestrating referable moments while you're in the home buying process. That's what everybody who worked in my company believed in. That's why it was successful. So.
It's really cool to watch the girls and listen to them start asking for the business.
Oh, isn't it amazing?
They're doing
when you
it
walk
on every
around?
call.
Oh, it's one of the best feelings in the world when they get it because they see the value in what they're providing. That's a really good point, Kristen. How did you get them to start doing that?
Well, they have to.
Yeah,
I provided the script, and then
Well, no, back,
this month, the month of February.
Don't gloss over that statement, Kristen. What do you mean they have to?
It's in their job description.
Oh, can you expand that a little bit more? What do you mean by that's in their job description? Like they will get on the phone and ask for business?
Well, every Tuesday, no matter what, we do a loan status update call to all parties. So title company, listing agent, buyer's agent, buyer. And there's a script depending on which person they're calling and how they're asking for the business. And then that's also, it's basically just any time they're on their phone. It's, hey, Kristen wanted me to ask you if you worked with anybody this weekend and she can help you get to the closing table. And it's all preempted of what Kristen said.
And how many times are you asking that statement to those people? Are you asking them at all? I mean, do you
I don't
have
really
those same
talk to people anymore, hardly.
What do you mean you don't talk to people anymore?
Besides my girls, my clients would much rather talk to the girls than me.
Oh, wow. Who wants that kind of business? Nobody?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hey, Kristen, so can you, we may have talked about this on the last call, but what are your, what's your team made up of? I mean, just as far as their position.
Well, I just hired a processor that started last week. So I have a processor now. She's not in my office. She's actually out of Missouri, so she works from her house. So that's a new position. So I don't really know much about how that's going yet, besides she's just a badass rock star. And then I have Nadia, who's been my administrative assistant / loan partner. This week she's transitioning fully into a loan partner. And I have Amy, who is a loan partner, and that's all she does is loan partner activities. And then I hired Crystal as an administrative assistant. She was supposed to start full-time last week, and then she got the flu. So she worked one day last week, and then she's back in town this week. So it's always changing. But
So you have
so right now,
two loan partners, a processor, and an assistant.
Administrative assistant.
Yeah.
And so do you spend most of your time, besides talking to your besides talking to your girls, do you spend most of your time out there also prospecting? Or do you find that now your business pretty much comes to you?
Well, a lot of the business comes in now, but I'm building the deeper relationships with my better referral partners.
Okay.
And then I'm also, making sure all my branch expenses are done, making sure my spreadsheets are done. It's a lot of other tedious things behind the scene.
And what's the volume of, what's in your pipeline right now, just for you personally?
Like, I don't know, 6 million something. I had a few loans fund, but it's like 24 loans for 6.4 million.
Okay. So the point of the matter is that Kristen has probably the biggest payroll in this call. and yet she also has the biggest pipeline volume of anybody on this call. I believe. I could be wrong. The point of the point I want to make is that she's very, very good at being able to allow her team to succeed at their positions and hiring the right person, but letting go at the fullest capacity, because she understands that her purpose is no longer to care about the Smith file. She cares more about making sure that her team is doing their job and less about what happens to the Smith loan, because she knows if she takes care of her team, the Smith loan will get done.
And it's
Which
actually
kind of was-
27 for 6,569,554, and I have 3 more files to disclose today.
Wow, wow. Who thinks that Krista knows what she's doing when it comes to managing?
I do.
Yeah,
Me.
no doubt, no doubt. And so when you look at your percentages of your volume, I mean, when you see the volume goal that you set for yourself at the beginning of the year, and you look at where you're at compared to that, anytime that we're not hitting our stride, a large percentage has to do with how well we're effectively managing our team. So I appreciate everybody's honesty. I appreciate everybody's vulnerability here. I really, really do. Is there anything else anybody wants to chat about?
No, this was a good one.
Oh, good, good. Hey, Mr. Hossinger, you've been on the call. You've been awfully quiet. What's going on in your world, buddy?
Well, so I've been like struggling with getting my team to work right, because I have like I have a big payroll, but it just hasn't been working out for me. And when I go back and look at it, I was doing a lot of complaining and thinking like maybe this person isn't right at this job and that job. But really, like when I took a look at myself and what my job duties really are as head of the team, I was one who was really not doing my job. So I realize that now, and I kind of like have been owning that, and I've been spending a lot of time, sort of like Les that he did, just going back through my policies and procedures and really fine-tuning them, and I've been like more involved with the people on my team and explaining to them exactly what their job duty is. And Doug, you've been helping me with kind of taking out the managing the person part, and just I'm managing their ability to do the things on their job description. Like for an example, for my loan partner, something that really that just means so much, but to actually say it to them, like, hey, listen, part of your role is to run DU and actually try to approve a high percentage of them. So you need to get to learn, you need to learn DU better, and I'm ranking you and rating you on how well you can approve DU, because if I go back and check something and I can figure it out, I'm going to consider that a mistake and an error on your part, and we can work through it, but that's your job. And it's been working a lot. I still have a little bit to go, but it's like I'm so excited. I was like so excited to come in today and just get the process rolling, because my bottleneck has really just been like getting people pre-approved correctly without me getting involved. It just wasn't happening. So I don't know.
I love it. What about you, Mr. Brown? You've been quiet. Thanks for joining, buddy.
He's
Dave,
still
you
quiet.
there? I know he's still
Yep,
quiet.
I'm here. Sorry about
What's up,
that.
bud? Oh, no sweat.
You were muted. Not much. I'm just trying to learn from these guys, catch up a little bit, and get a few things done.
Okay.
I'm doing a jumbo loan today, guys. Like, this is like worth like 6 of my normal loans. It's a 417er. Oh yeah. I may have to call on somebody, because it's like I feel like I'm doing like 6 loans all in one. I'm thinking this is pretty cool.
Yeah, right. You have you've gone a little bit in the other direction when it comes to your employee. You hired your first employee that wasn't even licensed, and you have her doing administrative work. And I've noticed that based on the lead volume that you're producing, you're going to be closing consistently over 5 loans a month here within the next 30 to 60 days. Is that a fair guess?
It had better be, yeah.
Okay. So what have you done? What did you do with your assistant over the last? Because she's been with you for like 120 days.
Right. I think right at 4 months now.
Okay. So what was your first 4 months like with her? I mean, did you basically just plug her in and just kind of expect that she was going to do the job, or did you spend a lot of time with her, mentoring her and coaching her? And I mean, I know the answer, but I'd like to hear you say it.
Well, I think I didn't just throw her in, but I also gave her enough latitude to see where her, I kind of call them the bumper lines. I wanted to see kind of, what her aptitude towards things was. But I would say there was a lot of, we sit in the same office, in the same 12 by 11 office, so we're a few feet from each other. So, we had a lot of one-on-one communication, a lot of, here, wheel your chair over, look at what I'm doing, watch what I'm doing, so that the next time or two, that I could have her try to do something and I would kind of look over her shoulder. So, I would say the first 30 to 45 days, there's always that learning curve of you have to be willing, I think, to let people not be afraid to make a mistake, and you can't be so hard on somebody to realize in their first month or two, that they're, you can't expect them to be perfect. And so I think, there weren't many learning moments, but, there were definitely critiquing going on. So that was one thing I had shared with you, Doug. I think one of the things I had to do right away was I established what it was that I wanted, as far as what roles and tasks I want to do. And so, one of the things I have on my goal sheet that I write down every day right now is to create a team that allows me to only do what I like to do. And I look at that twice a day now, so that, I write that down twice a day, to create a team that allows me to do only what I want to do. Am I there yet? Absolutely not. But I'm significantly further along than what I was, at the end of the year, the last quarter, I was tracking, 5, 6, 7, 8 loans a month, through December, through January, then I, slowed down. But here, for the month, right now, I've got 24 leads on my lead tracker on the 15th day of the month so far. So we're, so I'm doing what you've said. I'm really focusing on 2 leads a day. How do I go get them? And then the rest will start to shake out. So, I think, if I keep doing that, we're going to be in good shape. But she's taking all the low-hanging stuff off my plate, which is helping.
Right. And again, this is a girl that's not licensed. This is a girl that has
Correct.
4 months she's been in the industry for 4 months. So, it covers both ends of the spectrum, but I think a lot of it has to do with the ability to be a leader. I think you can plug anybody into, and I just had a coaching call with Dale Vermillion. And everybody I think that's on this call knows who Dale is. And so one of the things that he talked about when he was a sales manager was he never hired people with experience. He hired people based on aptitude and attitude. And Kaylee, which is Dave Brown's assistant, has an extremely high level of aptitude and attitude, which I fell in love with the first day that I met her. Has she been able to be trained and learn the business? Absolutely. Has she been perfect at it? No. But Dave knows that every day that he's in the office, he's teaching her something about the job that allows him to get away from having to manage the micro details of the business, which allows him to go and say, I have 24 leads on my lead tracker, and it's only the 15th of the month. And so it goes back to when you look at these percentages of your goals, it all comes back to how much are we willing to let go of what holds us back. Because if you guys could spend, Tony, if you could spend your entire day in front of classes teaching and marketing yourself, would you be able to hit your goals?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as following up consistently with the agents that I met at those classes. Yeah.
Agreed. But you would have more time to do that if that's all you could do. If all you needed to do was do follow-up and do your presentations, and every loan application that came in, you talked to them in the beginning and then handed it over to Bert and managed Bert, I don't think you'd have to worry about the clients anymore, would you?
No.
Okay. So there's really there's no reason to think that your volume couldn't be at 10 loans a month by the end of March.
No.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Each one of you guys has the talent, every one of you guys, and that's why you're in this group. So that's all I got for today, unless anybody else has something else they want to chat about. Does anybody want to post a commitment for next month? Like who's going to move up? Who's going to stay with their who's going to increase their percentage of volume?
I
their
will.
goal. Yeah?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll be
Okay.
back on track after this one.
Awesome. Hey Les, are you still on the call, buddy?
Yes, I am.
All right, my friend. You're sitting in the 10th spot, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we're going as hard as we can. As I'm, February. I think I've got 12 deals closing. So
you got 12. Wow, Les, congratulations, brother. I fully expect you to be moving up that chain, no doubt.
Yeah, and then March is looking really good. I think we're going to be. The plan is to be over 3 million in March. So we're.
So whatever you were doing in November and December has ramped up, and now your February and March are really going to start taking hold. So you're going to start seeing the results of your efforts.
That's what I'm counting on. So yeah.
Les, I'm so excited, buddy. I cannot wait to see you. I cannot wait to see the next 2 months. I can't wait to see the next 2 months from each of you. I've had intimate conversations with most of you, and I'm super excited to see what the results are going to look like. And again, this is about the goals that you guys set. I mean, if you want to adjust your goals and you want to rethink them with me, I'm all for it. I'm using the percentages of the numbers that you guys gave me that you wanted to hit, and I told you, each one of you, that if this is your goal, it's going to be my commitment. And I don't mean, when I posted this information, I don't want anybody to take it personally. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. I'm not trying to belittle anybody, because each of you represent a very, very strong skill set. But as it relates to this call and being a manager and being a leader of your team, I think it's necessary to look at these numbers as it relates to, where our weaknesses are. It's not in sales. It's not in origination. You just aren't spending enough time doing it. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I greatly, greatly appreciate your willingness to sit on the call and to share your businesses with all of us. So I'm honored to be a part of this. And again, if there's anything I can do to help you guys, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Doug.
Have a good afternoon. Take care.
Bye.
See you guys next